All righty. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Saturday to everyone. It's your boy Soto here with the Autumn Windbags. In with another episode. Sorry, I was 2 minutes late today. If you knew what I had to go through to get here on time, a lot of stuff. So I was going to go to the grocery store because I had time. I woke up late today. I slept in. Going to go to the grocery store, get my stuff done. Hit up my chick, FaceTime my chick. She's like, "Oh, come pick me up. I want to go." So there we go. Out of my way to pick her up, out of my way to come back. Then the grocery store. Then, I want this, I want that. You know how that goes. What's up, Bob? Good afternoon, sir. So a lot of stuff has happened recently in the past. I don't know. When's the last time I talked to you guys? Since Thursday, Wednesday night, Thursday, in a couple days. First, I want to read this. John Brubaker writes in and says, "Your Raider commentary, as usual, superb. Your social commentary, not what I tune in for." Well, get ready for some more social commentary because Colin Kaepernick has been given an opportunity to throw in front of scouts who would already be at a Michigan spring game. So Jim Harbaugh, as former coach with the 49ers, has invited Colin Kaepernick to throw at the halftime of Michigan's spring game. So regardless if you agree with Colin Kaepernick's stance to protest or how he protested or whatever, regardless of how you feel about that, I didn't have a problem with it personally, but you might. We have to agree that the fact that he has not been given a chance since he started doing his protests in the NFL, I think it's kind of fishy, man. Well, it's not about wanting him on your team or not wanting him on your team. The issue, I believe, is him not even being given an opportunity. You have a lot of players in the NFL who, I mean, let's be honest, they just can't play. They're not very good, especially quarterbacks. There's some quarterbacks in the league who are just bouncing around from team to team, and they're just not very good. And there's a lot of ways of thought out there. One is from one side. You know what? When he pronouns, pal. When Kaepernick was kind of exiled from the NFL, when he was released and wasn't picked up by anyone, he felt like he was still a starting caliber player. He is in the same camp, in the same thought that a lot of people, what they say about Derek Carr, when he's like, you know what, he's a steady quarterback, but he needs a lot around him to do well. That's one of the criticisms about Carr is he needs more help around him than maybe some of the elite quarterbacks, right? Kaepernick has shown when he has a good team around him, he's able to, go to the Super Bowl, right? Now, there have been reports that Kaepernick has been offered contracts, but he wasn't willing at the time to come in either on a league minimum, a veteran's minimum contract, kind of a prove it deal, stuff like that. And again, you have to wonder, does he really want to be back in the league, or is he just kind of doing it for show? That, I don't know. I would like to think that he was still throwing and he's still being given opportunities by former coaches to throw, and he's, that he would still want to play. This is not just a stunt, but you never know. But reports have come out that Kaepernick has said that he's okay with being a backup in the NFL. He just wants an opportunity. So we'll see. There was that issue with the Ravens a few years ago, reportedly, where he was going to be offered a contract from the Ravens, but his chick screwed that up somehow. I don't know what happened, but she screwed it up. One has to think that in a similar light, you have to look at Cap's situation very similar to Baker Mayfield's situation, similar right now, not exactly the same, but I'll explain the context here. Baker is always seen as someone also is seen as someone who needs a lot around him to do well. Case in point, last year he had some injuries on his team. He was missing some key players, and he wasn't able to keep it together. Right, didn't have as good a season as he was projected to have, even though he had a stacked roster. He ended up getting hurt because maybe he was doing a little bit more and trying a little bit too hard and not just staying in the flow of the team, and he ended up getting hurt, and that kind of derailed his season. Baker Mayfield is also a headache. Baker Mayfield is also maybe seen by teams as a distraction. So that's part of it. I understand. But then you see a player like Deshaun Watson, who is a huge distraction and a very fresh kind of story of why he would be a distraction. The only issue is Deshaun Watson was on one of the worst teams in the NFL, and he still led the league in passing that year. He's that talented. He's like a top handful of quarterbacks in the league. That's the main difference. If you're going to be a headache in the NFL, you better be damn good. And Deshaun Watson proved it going to Cleveland and getting a fully guaranteed contract despite all these allegations, whether they're true or not. That's not up for me to decide. But he still has pending civil lawsuits. He's a very polarizing figure, especially with the female dynamic, which is a demographic that the NFL is looking to expand. So that goes to show you can be a distraction off the field as long as you're good enough to play, as long as you're a top talent. If you're not a top talent, look at Cap, look at Baker right now. No one wanted to trade for him. He may still be on the team, but that's a pretty hefty cap hit to keep him around for a backup quarterback. He's probably going to end up getting cut if he doesn't get traded before then. So don't be a huge distraction if you're not an elite player. That's the lesson. Don't be a huge distraction if you're not an elite player. So speaking of the all knucklehead team, I heard someone say the all knucklehead team here. Gun Nerd. The all knucklehead team, quarterback Cap, Alvin Kamara at the running back, wide receiver 1, AB, wide receiver 2, Henry Ruggs. What about Winslow Jr., Winslow the second as tight end? Ended up smelling like little boys' booty holes, messing with little boys. That's fucked up. You guys remember that? Google it. Throw it in your Google machines. Check it out. Winslow, I think he's still in jail. Kellen Winslow the second, tight end. So, AB went on Twitter, and this dude, I don't know what's going on through this guy's mind. He goes on a podcast like a week after he's released from the Bucs, after he's straight up like imploded on the sidelines and just walked off, threw his jersey off, walked like through the field of play. It wasn't like he walked like he was like walking through the end zone. Okay. It's nuts, man. It's nuts. AB goes on a podcast and says, Tom Brady doesn't have my back because other players are getting paid and I'm not getting paid. I didn't get paid like Gronk got paid. I didn't get paid like this guy got paid. I didn't get paid like that guy got paid. What he fails to understand is Antonio Brown at the time wasn't seen as a top receiver for the Bucks. Now, he may feel like all elite athletes feel like they're the best and they're the best receiver. Unfortunately, that wasn't him at that time. Godwin, Evans were seen as the bigger threats receiving wise. Gronk was their tight end one. He was their first tight end. So, of course, going to be paid a little bit more money. And Gronk isn't nearly the distraction off the field and nearly the risk off the field as AB, which AB fails to acknowledge. This is the hard part for me because I like to be aware. Like I like to be aware of myself, like how I come across. I come across a little bit opinionated and I come across a little bit gruff sometimes, and I say some shit that people don't like, but whatever. It's my mic, it's my show. I'm paying for the bandwidth, whatever. You don't like it, then don't listen. But I also want to talk about subjects that are going to be going to cause debate, subjects that are going to cause just interest or going to pique interest. I believe AB is just completely unaware of himself, completely unaware of who he is, and completely unaware of his actions. Because of that, he's completely not willing to accept the consequences of his actions. The way he battled out of Pittsburgh, the way he battled out of Oakland at the time with the Raiders, the reason why he only played one game with the Patriots, because more stuff came up of him skeeting on some chick's back and texting her about it while she was sleeping or whatever. Like this dude is just not, like, he's just not all there. Maybe that Vontaze Burfict hit fucked him up, and I don't know. The issue is right now, this man needs people around him to tell him who he is in the eyes of the NFL. And the problem is, AB can feel he's something different all day long. The problem with that is Antonio Brown is not a GM, a coach, an assistant GM, a owner of a team. He's none of that. So it doesn't matter how he feels as far as the NFL landscape goes. It matters how he's perceived by the NFL. And by his actions, he's not perceived very, very well. I don't know if anyone would offer him a contract. He's still a free agent, I believe. Antonio Brown said via TMZ Sports, I still feel like I can put up big numbers, and I see what these guys are getting paid. I just wonder why my value isn't being upheld as the same. Well, like, if he doesn't understand, it's like that movie Training Day, right? You guys remember Training Day, right? It doesn't matter what happened. It matters what you can prove. That's what matters, right? It's not what happened, it's what you can prove. In the NFL, it's not what the facts are, it's what the perception is, what your perception is in the league. Have you ever been working with someone who just was just dipshit? You ended up helping them with all their work, and they ended up getting a promotion because they suck up to the right people and they know how to play the corporate game. That's the perception. They're perceived to be more valuable than they actually are because that's what they give off, and that's the picture they've painted for themselves. Unfortunately, AB has not painted that great a picture. If he were just to keep his mouth shut, stay clean, and work, I think he would have no problem finding a job and get paid decent money, even at his age. He's in his early 30s, 32, 33, something like that, maybe 34. I don't know how old he is. But it's hard, man. It's hard to feel sympathetic for this guy because every single turn, the Patriots, the Steelers did a really good job of keeping all of his kind of locker room antics quiet. Very strong locker room, very strong. Tomlin's a very strong head coach. He kept a lot of that stuff under wraps. Unfortunately, the emergence of Juju Smith-Schuster, the emergence of Deontay, a couple other receivers, he wasn't as needed at the time they let him go. At the time they let him go in a trade. Because you have to wonder, the positives, and you have to weigh the positives and negatives. And as good as a player as he is on the field, he is getting a little bit older. And although he is still a good athlete, he's not quite as athletic as he was in his prime. It just so happened that the headache became too much. And once the cap was taken off and the Steelers were like no longer covering for all his antics, he went out and he just tried to make himself this celebrity by doing this and that and almost freezing his damn feet off and showing up to training camp in a hot air balloon and all this crap about getting that film, that clip from Hard Knocks of Antonio Brown on the phone with his agent, sitting there, tapping his foot, waiting. Then when he's told he got released by the Raiders, he runs around like a freaking madman. It's that made me just shut down with AB. I don't care what happens to AB. I don't care whether he plays or doesn't, or becomes a president, or ends up living in a freaking homeless shelter. I don't care what happens to the dude from now on. I don't waste any mental energy thinking about him other than when he makes himself look like a bigger idiot than he already is. So AB, you're not going to get a job anywhere. Just fucking deal with it. Moving on, we had a couple of signings in the last couple of days. Huge signing. Nick Mullins signed a backup quarterback. What? He's going to battle with Garrett Gilbert for a backup with Carr. You know what, Dub 9 Raider? He may be mentally ill. You can blame him because he's an adult and he's a functioning adult in society. So he does have some blame to take, whether it's because of his actions or his unwillingness to surround himself with the right people. So he does deserve some kind of blame for his actions. I'm not going to say that AB doesn't deserve some kind of blame. He does deserve some kind, I believe. Is it all of it? Who knows? But definitely he's not somebody who's I would describe even moderately as stable. Nick Mullins, decent quarterback. He won some games with the 49ers. You know, as a backup, that's what you want. You don't want to have a Marcus Mariota as your backup, as valuable as he was, because he doesn't play the same style quarterback as Carr does. You have to basically change your system to fit his skill set. He runs a different set of plays that Carr doesn't run. Nick Mullins and Garrett Gilbert are those type of heady type of pocket passers who get the ball out quickly and who can move when they need to, but that's not their forte. So it's not terrible. Also, we're bringing back Jonathan Hankins. I do like Jonathan Hankins very much. I believe that he can flourish in this scheme, given the opportunity to maybe rush the passer a little bit more, maybe at that D tackle spot. I do like the signing very much. He signed for a 1-year deal. I think he's got a lot left in the tank, guys, and I don't know why anyone else didn't pick him up. Maybe he wanted to stay with the Raiders. Who knows? Maybe he wanted to reunite with Graham. Graham was his defensive coordinator with the Giants. Who knows? But I think it's a good signing for us, and this defensive line is starting to round out nicely. So Big Hank is back. Yeah, Gun Nerd. Good one, man. I'm excited for him to be back. I think that he's going to do a lot of – we talked about pressure and how teams are set up to handle edge pressure. Maybe not every single play because there's special talent out wide. But if you're a good talent rushing up the middle and cause that type of pressure, most quarterbacks can't really escape from that. It's a little bit harder for them to escape from the up the middle pressure. So Hankins can hopefully offer some pressure up the middle for us. I don't know why, man. My sinuses, my allergies are going crazy, and it's giving me a crazy dry mouth. All right. Let's talk about the current team on the offensive side. Kenyon Drake was given, that's what I wanted to say. Kenyon Drake was given an 82.0 receiving grade last year by PFF. Now, again, what does that mean? Does that mean he's the best receiving running back in the league? No. But when you look at that he was the third ranked receiving running back last season, that means he's in the upper echelon. Is he the third best? Is he the best? Is he in the middle of the pack? No, but he's definitely one of the best because you don't get those kind of, numbers by being some slub. You have to be a good receiving back to get that number. So given the fact that he's that good of a receiver out of the backfield, and given the fact that McDaniels does like to throw those running backs, is Kenyon Drake poised for a breakout season in 2022? I think yes. Let's take a look. So, the past 5 seasons, 2021, the leading receiver for a Josh McDaniels offense was Brandon Bolden, who's actually on our team now. He had 41 receptions for 405 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, that may not seem super impressive, but you have to look at it from this perspective. James White is still the primary receiving back out of the backfield for the Patriots, who only played 3 games. So for a few games, the Patriots were looking for that. Who's that receiving back going to be? And Brandon Bolden really didn't emerge as their lead receiving back until about the middle of the season when they started to kick it around and made that late playoff push. So when you look at that from that perspective, really only being that primary receiving back for half the season, 41 receptions and 400 yards and 2 touchdowns doesn't seem that bad. Plus, Mac Jones is a rookie. He's not used to throwing to the running backs, being from Alabama. And he was given 2 tight ends as a security blanket in Smith and Hunter Henry. And that's who he really relied on for his security blanket, and not much really with the running back position. But if you look at if you take all that into account, not a bad receiving year for a running back. In 2020, James White was the leading receiver for the Patriots. He missed 3 games, but he still got 49 receptions, 375 yards, and 1 touchdown. Here's the deal. Not super impressive, right? Whatever, 50 catches under 400 yards, about 7 yards a carry, my computer like mine. 1 touchdown. Well, Cam Newton was the quarterback that year. Cam Newton is not dumping the ball off or checking the ball down. When Cam Newton doesn't see his receiver, he's going to fucking run. So instead of a lot of those plays that were checkdowns or could have been checkdowns to James White, Cam ended up running it himself when he had a lot of carries that year. I think he was tied for the team leading carries that season. So you have to take that into account as well. And, and plus, I don't think Cam's a very good throwing quarterback anymore anyway. Take that into account. 50 receptions, not terrible, right? Okay, those are the last 2 years. The last 3 years with Tom Brady under Josh McDaniels' system. In 2019, James White had 72 receptions, 645 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That's more like it, right? 2018, James White, 87 receptions, 751 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Now we're cooking. 2017, he was a little bit banged up. He missed a couple of games that year in 17. 56 receptions, 429 yards, and 3 touchdowns. There is going to be a primary receiving back in the backfield for the Raiders. I don't see why it's not going to be Kenyon Drake. He is explosive. He has great hands. He runs routes like a receiver. And I don't know what else you would want in a receiving back other than Kenyon Drake. I feel like Kenyon Drake is going to blow up next year because of this. Maybe not in receiving yards, or excuse me, in rushing yards or even rushing attempts, but in receiving yards, that's where it's at. You have to look at 2. Not only does Josh McDaniels like 2 tight end sets, he also likes 2 running back sets. And not always is it going to be a fullback and a tailback or a running back. A lot of times he does 2 running back sets. And look for that, because James White has had a healthy career being a receiving back in a Josh McDaniels system. I think we can do the same for Kenyon Drake next year. So look for that. Gun Nerd says there's a good chance that Kenyon Drake gets a lot of touches this season. Kenyon Drake runs better behind power as opposed to his zone runs where he has trouble reading zone. I don't know if he's going to run that ball that often this year. I'll be honest with you. I think he's going to be a receiving back. And if he's a good receiving back for us, I think that's going to be good for us moving forward and good for the offense. All righty. So there was a Bleacher Report poll. They said, okay, here are the wide receiver duos in the NFL. Who is the best? And the Raiders duo of Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow, or Hummer Renfrow, as he's known by the Windbags, ranked fourth. They got 15%. Let's take a look at these at the final standings, the top five. The Rams, Kupp and Allen Robinson received 27% of the votes. They were number one. Closely behind in number two, the Bengals with Chase and Higgins. Hard to argue, that's a good combo. Third, surprisingly, was the Dolphins with Hill and Waddle. I guess you don't have to preface it with who's throwing to them, because I just don't see Tua really making this team. I don't know, man. I'm not that sold on Tua. Maybe we'll see what happens going forward, but I don't know. But they were third place, very close third place with 21%. Then, of course, the Adams and Renfrow with 15%, and fifth was the Bucks, Evans and Godwin with 11%. So, what does that mean? I see it as very similar to like a PFF grade, right? Are those exact? Does that mean because they were ranked fourth, they're going to be the fourth best receiving duo in the league? No. You look at the production of all the players, you look at their situation. I don't see Hill and Waddle being number three, honestly. An argument can be made for Kupp and Robinson at one. An argument can be made for Chase and Higgins to be one or two. I really do feel like the Raiders duo of Adams and Renfrow is going to be one of the top duos in the league. The reason being is they are a carbon copy of one another, just maybe Devontae Adams a little bit faster, a little bit bigger, a little bit better. But as getting open, scheming someone open is one thing. That's what Gruden was really good at. As much as we knock Gruden for his predictability and for just his very simple game plan or philosophy of just dinking and dunking the ball down the field, it worked, right? When you have two players like a Hunter Renfrow, two players who can get open against any coverage, who are smart enough to identify coverages, identify schemes, identify stunts and games by the secondary, I believe with their route running ability and just their ability to make the difficult catch, I believe they're going to be one of the top duos in the league. I really do. The only thing that would stop them from being looked at as one of the top duos in the league is if Darren Waller comes back to form, right, and becomes a huge threat and takes touches away. That's really the only thing I see. And one of the things you don't see here is when you take a look at some of these other teams, OBJ is going to miss a large chunk of the season, so he's not going to really cut into Kupp and Robinson's touches, right? Robert Woods, who I'm a huge Robert Woods fan. I think he's an excellent receiver, and he's not there anymore. With Chase and Higgins, who's their receiving threat out of the backfield? Who's going to take their touches away? Their receiving tight end is gone. He signed elsewhere. So they're going to receive the majority of the touches in the passing game. Evans and Godwin, they don't really have a huge receiver out of the backfield. They started throwing more to Leonard, but he's not really emerged as that receiving back. You have Gronk, but Gronk really doesn't get a lot of receptions. He's more like the third down guy, or like the big play. This is a big play. We're going to go to Gronk type of guy. So they're going to receive the bulk of the looks. Now they did get Russell Gage, but I think he's going to be there more. He's by far, Russell Gage is very good. He's a very good wide receiver. He's still by far the number 3 option. So they're going to be getting a lot of, they being pronouns, pal. God damn it. Evans and Godwin are going to get a lot of the receiving touches. The only group out of these 5 that has a legitimate third big-time option in the passing game is the Raiders with Waller. And I feel like that's going to maybe eat into some of the touches that Adams and Renfrow receive. McDaniels loves tight ends, man. If not for Aaron Hernandez being a freaking moron and getting himself, tangled in that stupid shit and killing somebody, they were the top 2. Hernandez and Gronk were the top 2 options in that offense. Very, very dynamic duo at tight end, and McDaniels loved it. It was great for him because you have 2 matchup nightmares, right? Now I'm not trying to say that that Foster Moreau is a matchup nightmare, but he is a matchup problem. He is kind of like that, like Waller. I say light, right? He's that Waller light. He's not as big or as fast or as dynamic as Waller, but he's pretty damn good. He would start at tight end for a lot of different teams out there. So having those 2 options at tight end kind of has McDaniels just like was licking his lips, and that's the only reason I see their the Raiders duo of wide receivers not having as good of numbers as maybe some of the other teams do, simply because there is that third option of Waller, who can definitely be the someone who takes away their touches. Hefe KC says, was Hernandez better than Gronk? It could be argued that Hernandez was better than Gronk. I think Gronk was the bigger, more tough, stronger, hard to tackle tight end, kind of a Mark Bavaro type. But Hernandez was the faster, smoother receiver. He the way he ran routes, the way Hernandez ran routes, he looked like a big wide receiver playing the tight end position, running routes and getting open, and just a little bit more dynamic. Gronk was just, a big, more of a battering ram with great hands. Don't get me wrong, knows how to get open, knows how to make the tough catch. But I think Hernandez was a little bit more dynamic of a player than Gronk was. Unfortunately, he went over and Dub 9 Raider, be nice. Be nice here. That was funny, but be nice. Gun Nerd says, I can see the Raiders possibly having 3,000-yard receivers. Bro, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it, because remember, when Carr had all of his receivers, they had, in the first 4 games, they had 4 receivers with 200 or more yards receiving. Edwards, Renfrow, Waller, and Ruggs. They all had over 200 yards receiving in the first 4 games of the season. So given all the weapons and given the ability to identify the matchup issues, I can see the Raiders having 3,000-yard receivers, no problem. I can also see, to kind of piggyback on the last segment, Kenyon Drake darn near receiving almost 1,000 yards himself, maybe around the 750 to 800 yard mark, especially now with the extra game with the 17 games. He has another opportunity to get more yardage. I can definitely see them having a lot of, maybe even 4. You never know. 3 for sure is definitely possible. All right. Let's see here. Waller is what Hernandez could have been. I agree 100%. I think their games parallel each other nicely. I just think that Waller is a little bit faster than Hernandez was. But as far as not true. Sorry. That's just not true. Hernandez was better than Waller. That's not true at all. You can look at his numbers. You can look at his peripheral numbers, his drop percentage. You can look at his yards after catch. Hernandez was not better than Waller. So he was very good. I think he was very good. But I don't think Hernandez was better than Waller. I think he could have been very good in that same realm up there. But I do think that Hernandez was the better of the two tight ends. I think he was the more dynamic of the two tight ends. Now, if we have something similar in Vegas for us this year, I think it's going to be a really good kind of duo in tight end. So we can have a dynamic duo at receiver, a dynamic duo at tight end. And listen, guys, there are reports out there that the Raiders are going to pick up Jacobs' option. We can have a dynamic duo at running back too. It all depends on the offensive line and how well they block. But man, Jacobs running the ball, Drake receiving the ball. You have Waller and Moreau at tight end receiving the ball. You have Renfrow and Adams at receiver. This offense is looking pretty damn scary. It could be one of the top offenses in the league. All righty. Let's get to some of your questions here. All righty. The numbers asks, do you see us making any more splashy signs? Yes, post June 1st, post June 1, we will have the space to give guaranteed money. And we will be able to make more signings at that time. I do believe that's one of the reasons why Gilmore and Matthew haven't signed yet. I think it's a possibility that they sign post June 1 because their contract demands are going to be a little bit higher. I don't think it's because they're expecting too much money. I think they're both very good players still and have some good years left. So look for that post June 1. That post June 1 signing period is big. What else we got here? Okay, another of the numbers question. Who do you think it's going to be at right tackle? Leatherwood, Parker, or Luminor? Well, as I talked about in the weekly show on Wednesday, one of the big things that McDaniels said is that everyone has a clean slate, which I love. I'm a USC fan, and I loved Pete Carroll walking into the first day of spring practice at USC and telling everybody, nobody here is guaranteed a starting job, and I never guaranteed any one of you a starting job. Every job is up for grabs. Whoever plays the best is going to play on the field. Whoever practices the best is going to play on the field. Yeah. So I do believe that the best guys are going to play and the best incarnation of this line. How the best this line can be, the best they can be, that's the starting five that's going to be out there. I do have full confidence in that. Here's the main reason why. Although they've seen tape on players and stuff like that, we said it before. I don't know that this new regime has or had a lot of faith in the Raiders' offensive line coaching and development. So they being the Raiders coaching staff, feel like they can coach up these guys because there's still a lot of talent, untapped talent left on this line. Good thing about this line right now is they're very young. They're a very young line. And like RJ likes to say, continuity is huge. I don't know that continuity is Trump's overall talent, but it's very big and it kind of closes that gap. You can have a line that plays together and then the individual pieces maybe aren't as talented as maybe some other lines in the NFL, but they play well together and they play better than those offensive lines because they're a cohesive unit. So what we're going to do is we're going to see who fits the best. And right now, I don't really see Leatherwood making right tackle. I think he's going to kick into guard. I think Illuminor, because he has that familiarity with Josh McDaniels, and he started quite a few games for the Patriots. Maybe has a little bit of a leg up, but not much. Again, everyone's starting with the clean slate. Even Brandon fucking Paca is starting with a clean slate. So if we can go ahead and coach him up, who knows, man? We could have a pretty decent line. Gun Nerd asks, is there possibly any truth to Renfrow possibly getting extended? I saw a report yesterday or the day before that a 5-year extension was a possibility. Of course, anything's possible. Again, post June 1, you need to have that cap space, that numbers that drop off from a lot of the players that you released. It's going to drop off post June 1. And it's just kind of a funky thing where you need to have that space available to sign people, especially for guaranteed money. So you need to have that space available in your cap, and you have to wait till post June 1 to release them. But yeah, it's going to be after June 1. We're going to do a lot of the re-signings. That's what's taking the Carr deal some time to happen. The Renfrow deal, hopefully like a Gilmore and or Matthew or both. I saw in here an Ndamukong Suh. I don't know that he's going to fit in our scheme. I don't have a problem with it. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's quite the player he has been in the past. Matt Marinovich, like Todd Marinovich. No updates as of yet. But I do feel like these two caliber of players. For those listening and not watching, Matt Marinovich asked, any update on Gilmore and Matthew? From what I've seen, there is no update. There were rumblings that he was flirting with he being Matthew, Matthew was flirting with the Steelers, but informed them that he was not really into them, that he had a couple other choices. So I think they're going to be both Gilmore and Matthew are going to be post June 1 signings, unless there's some funky capish stuff going on where you can finagle the cap a little bit. Let's see here. Denzel Good could be released as well to free up $4 million. Yeah, it's true. Although I do like Denzel Good and he played really well for us, this new coaching staff doesn't really appreciate. I don't know if they don't or not. I'm speaking for them, but they may not appreciate the value of a Denzel Good being a swing lineman. So yeah, I don't know, man. Oh, yay. What up, man? What up? Graph in the house. Yo, man. Everybody, I didn't say this beforehand, but I want to say this now. Follow all Raider content creators, please. It's a good community. It's a big community, and we're all different, man. We're all different, but we all love the Raiders. We need to go out there and we need to just, whoever it is. There's Graphic, there's Sanjeet, there's Tape Don't Lie, there's Carl, there's Raider Honcho, there's Pharaoh. There's a bunch of people out there, man. Follow Raider content creators, man. There's plenty of Raiders out here. There's Raider content creators out here, man. I just want to make sure that everybody, I shot every episode. You guys know this. I tell every one of my episodes, everybody get out there, man. Listen, support. There's so many out here, man. There's so many good content creators out here, and we're all different, man. And it's all your flavor. Some people are a little bit more tape heavy. Some people are a little bit more just news heavy. Some people are a little bit more opinion heavy. Dude, it's all good, man. We're all a little bit different. We all talk about the same stuff with a little bit different perspective. But yeah, man, everyone go just get your Raider content in, man, because there's plenty of stuff to talk about, and there's plenty of content to keep you busy, whether you're driving to and from work, whether you can listen to stuff, podcasts, or content while you're at work. It's excellent, man. I really appreciate all you guys. Omar with the $5 super chat says, what do you think of all the rumors of Waller not wanting to play, having beef with DC? It's a common talk around YouTube content creators. What do I make of it? I think it's unfortunate if it's true. I think that Waller may have been a little he rightfully so. Once Ruggs was gone, Waller was really the main like wide receiving threat. He was the biggest threat on the field, receiving wise. Unfortunately, he was injured. And because of that injury, the connection between Carr and Renfrow really started to bond and really started to flourish. If there's one thing you know about Carr, he does fall in love with receivers. So there's going to be stretches of time where Carr is going to fall in love with a specific receiver. It just so happens that Renfrow knows how to get open, man, and he knows how to catch the ball. He doesn't drop too many balls. I think he's one of the top in drop percentage in the league. And he just kept feeding him the ball. And honestly, like, could you really argue with that? Because even when Waller came back, those IT band injuries, especially close to the knee, those are tough, dude. The IT band, for those who don't know, the IT band is a ligament that has a lot of connective tissues to your thigh, your hamstring, the back of your knee, up to your hip on the outside of your leg. So think of it this way: like I coach and train at a Muay Thai and MMA gym, right? When you do an outside leg kick, that shin bone is like a baseball bat. It swings that fast and that hard. That shin bone is really strong. When it digs into that thigh, it's like getting hit in your thigh with a baseball bat. That's the IT band is what you're aiming for to hurt. That gives you a dead leg or like a Charlie horse in your leg. So when you have an injury to that, imagine walking around with a permanent dead leg. And he had an injury that was closer down to his knee, which is again connective tissues to the knee. You have to worry about if some of the connective tissues are damaged or inflamed or swollen or strained. Maybe a little bit of the knee shifting a little bit because they're not really given an equal stability from both sides of the leg, of both sides of the knee. So a lot of little things that can happen when you have IT band injuries, especially that close to the knee. So when Waller comes back after being injured, he wasn't really the old Waller. He's still very good, but not the old Waller. And Hunter Renfrow was just skyrocketing, and that just goes to show you that if you're catching passes from Derek Carr, he's going to keep feeding you, which is why I feel like Adams and Renfrow can still have a big year. As far as Waller moving forward, I don't think it would be good for his career to go anywhere. I think that it would be best for his career to stay where he is and be a part of a dynamic offense. Although Waller is very difficult to guard, if he goes to a team where he's one of the more maybe wide receivers strapped teams in the league, he's going to be one of the lead receivers. You could feed him the ball for sure, but I don't know if his numbers are going to be as dynamic. I see Waller in our offense making a lot bigger plays because of the matchup nightmare that he is. If you put a safety on him, he's just too big for a safety, and he's going to make those big chunk plays, right? Because he's just out muscles them. He's be able to get the ball over them. If you put a linebacker on him, just forget about it. He's got like 4.4 speed. He would run right by most linebackers, and also be able to jump over him as well. So I feel that if he stays with the Raiders, he may not get as many targets as he would with other teams. But I believe his overall numbers, as far as yardage, as far as maybe like big plays, as far as touchdowns going forward, because again, McDaniels loves the tight ends. I don't see McDaniels getting rid of him or trading him. I just don't see it because of the fact he does love the two tight end set, and he's so good at scheming for it. Gun nerd, IT band injuries mean you're not accelerating and jumping. Yeah, man, those are tough injuries, dude. Like I said, imagine walking around with a permanent dead leg for like, how long was he out? 3 weeks, a month? That's tough, man. I hear Raiders, Raider Godzilla. I'm hearing Raiders are going trade for Brian Cooks for a 4th round pick, but the Texans want a 3rd round pick. That's the holdup. Maybe Brandon Cooks. I haven't heard that. I think there's possibilities out there. I think maybe conversations have been had. Let's see here. Let's see. Jack Kenna says Waller can't go anywhere, period. Even though he use him until he is done, until we use him until he's done. 2 years left on his contract. Carr made him what he is. Yeah. Carr made him what he is, but you do have to give the man credit. He's still a special talent. If he goes anywhere with a competent quarterback, he's still going to be a very good talent. Dark Raider says, I don't want to trade Waller, but if he wants the bag, keep him this year and move him next. That's a possibility. There are a few sleeper picks at tight end in the draft. If you end up getting a tight end who's, can be a good player as well, you may think about doing that. I don't know. I wouldn't advise it. Find a way to pay him, man. That funny money. Let's do it. Find a way to pay him. Let's see here. All right. We have I had some other stuff I wanted to talk about here. William Merchant says, the future is now. We have a new coach and GM. So far on paper, they look good. However, I have to defend Gruyok, so Gruden and Mark Mayock. Or Mark. Who the hell is Mark Mayock? Can someone Google this guy? I keep saying Mark. RJ says Mark. I never said Mark Mayock until RJ said Mark Mayock and got it stuck in my freaking head. So RJ, it's your damn fault. Mike Mayock. Like it or not, their plan was working. I believe we are a 12 to 13 win team if the NFL doesn't take out Gruden. I don't think Ruggs happens if Gruden is still the coach. Well, here's the sad part. I definitely think Ruggs still happens if Gruden is the coach because he was having issues driving speed and driving recklessly his years prior. Gruden really didn't do anything about it. So I just think it was inevitable. He was drinking. He drives way too fast. He was being reckless. A recipe for disaster. Now, as far as Gruden and Mayock and their plan working, I agree the team was getting better. But you have to take a look at a couple things. Their draft strategy in early rounds was not great. Their high-priced free agents, again, was not good. Here's the issue that hampers these teams moving forward. If you have these teams, like let's say Gruden and Mayock with the Raiders, that whiff on these early first-round picks, it's not the same as whiffing like, oh, well, you have a player that if you have 6 draft picks and you hit on 3 and you miss on 3, what's the matter? What's the difference where you drafted them, right? Here's the problem. Let's say you hit on rounds 1, 2, and 3, and you whiff on rounds 4, 5, and 6, okay? You're not paying those 4th, 5th, and 6th round guys nearly the amount of money you're paying the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round guys, especially the 1st and 2nd round guys. If you have like a Cleveland Farrell on your team, just for example, okay, or an Arnett or whatever, on your team who isn't cutting the mustard, if those guys were 4th round picks, they would have been bye-bye because cutting those guys, whatever, right? So you cut, if let's say Arnett was a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick, and he was playing the way he played as a 1st round pick, being a 4th round pick, he's gone, the team's not out much, and they're able to upgrade at that position. Because he was a 1st round pick, because you're paying him so much money, you almost have to keep him on there because it's like wasted money if you cut him. So that's the difference. Now, why do I say that? Same thing goes with free agency. Gruden and Mayock's issues with the big first-day splash signings in free agency, those guys weren't cutting the mustard. If you get a Corey Littleton on a smaller deal or like a veteran minimum or a one-year prove-it deal, and he played like he played, you cut him and he's gone, right? Because you gave him so much money, you have to keep him on the books, and you can't really upgrade that position. What you have to do is hope that you hit like a Divine Diablo with a rookie who could take over, who's not making nearly enough money. Does this make sense, guys? Does this make sense of why Gruden and Mayock's plan wasn't going to last long term? Because if you're constantly handcuffing yourself to have to keep bad free agent signings and bad draft picks because they're your top picks and your top free agent signings because you owe them so much money, you're being forced to keep these guys, and you can't just cut them, or you can't put them on the bench, or you can't make them a special teams guy, because they have to be a bigger part of your roster because they're taking up so much of your cap. That's why. So building a team like this new regime is doing, like Mick Ziegler is doing, is a lot smarter and a lot better. They're going to look at like creating, the splash signings are great. The Jones, the Adams, those signings are awesome because those are proven players that are not scheme dependent. Okay. They're also getting some of this, a lot of the D tackles, some of the, outside linebackers, Hankins coming back, bringing back some of these guys. Even the Parker deal isn't terrible if he ends up panning out. If he doesn't, after this year, he's gone, and you don't owe him any more money anyway. Okay. We'll see what happens in the draft, but just the philosophy of overpaying or overdrafting players, it really ends up biting you if you're wrong, because you owe them so much money guaranteed over the next few years. You kind of have to keep them on your roster, and you can't upgrade that spot. You can't upgrade that position because you have to play them. All right. Brandon says Farrell was a consensus late first round pick for clarification. I guess he said that in response to me saying that he was a second round pick, and we picked him in the first round. So we drafted him 25 slots too soon as opposed to 30 slots too soon. Either way, he was drafted at least 20, 25 slots too soon. I'm seeing a lot of card talk on here. Uh-oh, we have a bet. Jack Kenna says, at Jefe, I will bet you a $5 super card doesn't go over 41 million per year. Jack, I kind of agree with that, dude. I don't think he's going to get more than that. Yeah, Watson got $55 million a year, and every single owner and GM cussed out the freaking Browns. I don't know if you guys heard that, but the Browns front office wasn't the most well-liked in the league for the owners' meetings. And it wasn't because they signed Watson. It's because of the contract they gave him. Now, here's the deal. Every other owner or every other group in the NFL, every other team in the NFL, if they just do business as usual and don't give them this is going to be the outlier contract. Nobody gets that contract. That was a contract that's just stupid. We're not doing that contract. Nobody in the league is doing that contract. And as long as all these teams kind of band together, I know they're not supposed to, but come on, they're going to do it. And don't give fully guaranteed contracts to quarterbacks. This contract will go away and just be an outlier. I don't think anyone else is going to do that. I really don't. Because it's not good for the team to give fully guaranteed contracts. Let's see here. Ooh. Kenna, I'll take that bet. Okay, well, so now it's official. Jack Kenna and Jefe KC are betting a $5 super chat that card does not sign for more than 41 mil per. Very good. The numbers writes, Soto, can't wait for the defense to be top 10, create turnovers, pick sixes. I agree, man. One of the things that we really didn't look at in the Chandler Jones signing is Chandler Jones has that ability to create turnovers. He bats balls in the air. that are intercepted. He does strip sacks. He strips running backs. He's just a big, strong, athletic dude. And he just has that knack of kind of like the peanut punch. Like he just has the knack. He knows how to do it. And he knows how to create turnovers. Graham has when you have a defense that's set and that's game planning around a specific team and a specific offense, you have a better chance of creating turnovers than if you're just a vanilla defense looking to run up and make plays. So I do see that we have a better chance of creating turnovers this next year. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Look, people like to say, "Oh well, he got 5 sacks. He beat." God damn pronouns, pal. Chandler Jones got like 5 sacks the first game of the season. He ended up with 10.5. So he only got 5.5 the rest of the year. You have to also look at TJ Watt missed a huge chunk of that season. And he was just getting double teamed like crazy and chipped, and like his numbers dropped because he wasn't able to kind of run a little bit freer than he is now because he has Max on the other side taking up a lot of attention as well. But Chandler Jones did also still create a lot of turnovers. And okay. All right. Last one. RJ pinned a question. As you guys may or may not know, RJ missed the Wednesday show or the Thursday show, excuse me. They taped it on Wednesday night because he's in Mexico. He's in Tulum, Mexico on a bachelor party. He's not getting back till tomorrow. I fucking hate him for that. I'm so upset. I wanted to go to, but I can't. So RJ pinned a question on the last show. How does RJ die in Mexico? A good friend of the program, Jeff Garrison, said RJ actually doesn't die, but he does end up saving someone's life. Jeff, I will say this. You and I have started to see a lot more eye to eye lately, but how dare you? How dare you say that RJ is going to save a life? If anyone is a hero on this show, he's got 2 thumbs and a bright smile, and it's this guy. I am the hero. I have saved 3 lives in my life. Documented, guaranteed, would have died if I hadn't stepped in. I am the hero on this show. If anyone is saving a life on this show, it's going to be this guy. I don't think RJ's going to do it. I think RJ's going to be fine. Gun Nerd, RJ is passed out in his hotel room, David Carradine style. RJ, I don't know if you've been telling people about your jerk off habits. Just if you're going to do that whole, slow jerk with the choke thing, just make sure you have a spotter because you don't want to get caught like that. All righty. What else we got here? We're rounding down, guys. We're at an hour already. What else? What other questions you guys have for me? Gunner, you can't give me that good of a setup and me not spike it, dude. I'm gonna fucking hit that out of the park. Okay. Guareb says the Raiders are in a fragile spot because if they lose any offensive weapons, it will lower Carr's chance to win because Carr needs near perfection to win, unlike some teams. Well, Carr lost the best receiver last year. It took him a couple games to figure it out, but they still ended up making the playoffs. So I don't know that you can take a top option or let alone the top 2 options because he lost to Waller for a good chunk of that time as well. And they still ended up winning games. So I don't know if that's necessarily fair. I see where you're coming from, but if you take the top two receiving options off of any team, I think that quarterback is going to struggle. And they lost Ruggs last year, and they lost Waller for a big chunk of the season. I mean, at least for a month or so. And when he came back, he wasn't the same Waller. Hopefully, he's all healed up now. But I think anyone losing top targets is going to make them maybe not as good, or make the results not as good as they would have been with those. But I don't know if that's the case right now, because we have a lot of weapons, man. We have a lot of weapons. If we lose one, I still think we're going to be okay. But honestly, you never know. You never know. All right, guys, we're winding down here. Again, appreciate all you guys. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I want to make sure that you tell everyone you know, everyone you see, talk about the Raiders, talk about Raiders content creators. I actually was talking to, this is why I was late, honestly. I was talking to some guy at the grocery store, and he was wearing Raiders, like a windbreaker. I'm like, oh, hey, nice windbreaker, man. He's like, oh, cool, yeah, I'm a Raider fan, whatever. Oh, yeah, to actually do a podcast, whatever. We start talking. And he didn't really know about content creators. He didn't know about Raiders content creators. He just wasn't the guy that listened to podcasts, that watched YouTube or anything like that. And I'm like, dude, get your phone out. These are some names you need to look on YouTube or on podcasts. Like, Raiders content creators is where it's at. If you're a Raider fan, if you're a big Raider fan and you like football, you will be entertained for hours on end every single week. So just make sure, everyone, like, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your haters, tell your mamas, tell your neighbors, tell everybody about the Windbags and Raider content creators out there. I want to make sure I always show my love and appreciation for you guys. I hope you guys have fun, talking to each other back and forth on the message board here. Hope you have fun with me today. And above all else, everybody, like I always say, go Raiders.